Fall in, Polk County. This is today's veteran. Hello and welcome, and on behalf of everyone at the Polk County Office of Veteran Services, thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Kate West, and on this installment of Today's Veteran, we'll revisit the recent honor flight mission when 80 World War II veterans took a trip to Washington, D.C. from our very own Lakeland Linder Airport. And later during our War Story segment, we will hear from Tim Kirkhart, one of our Polk County Veteran Service officers, about his military experience. Now stand by for your sit rep, Polk County, and prepare to copy. The VA has set a public goal of ending veterans' homelessness by the end of 2015 and will spend $600 million to continue the Supportive Services for Veteran Families Community Grants program, which are key to ending homelessness among veterans. The new pledge commits $300 million each in fiscal years 2014 and 2015 for the grants designed to provide a safety net for low-income veterans struggling with permanent housing. This direct support to outside nonprofits and the program's Housing First model have been instrumental in helping homeless veterans. Many of the aid recipients are veterans who are not yet homeless but could end up on the streets without some kind of intervention. The success of the SSVF program made continuing it an obvious choice, and this commitment of money in 2015 will provide continuity and planning for the larger homeless effort. Clark's House Incorporated, a charity that provides help to homeless veterans and their families right here in Polk County, has been awarded a VA grant for more than $800,000 from the VA's Supportive Services Department to provide help for homeless veterans in finding permanent residences and other services they need. The nonprofit group was founded by Paul Clark and was previously an actual house in Southeast Florida before it relocated to Lakeland last year. The mission of Clark's House is to help veterans get a place to stay first and keep them away from other things they are exposed to when faced with homelessness, such as drugs or crime. Caseworkers look for temporary and permanent housing, and the agency works closely with the VA to help homeless veterans find places to go for help. The Clark House can help veterans with rent and expenses usually associated with moving, such as security deposits, utility fee payment, emergency supplies, and even child care expenses. Veterans must have a current state-issued ID and a copy of their DD-214 for assistance. Habitat for Humanity, the faith-based organization known for building new homes for the poor, has seen donations decline in recent years because of the economy. To maintain its mission, many Habitat chapters, including Lakeland's, sought grants and other funding means to continue to make home repairs. That factor motivated the philanthropic arm of the Home Depot to partner with the nonprofit organization and grant $2.7 million towards a new program called the Habitat for Humanity Repair Corps. The Habitat Lakeland branch is one of only 19 in the country recruited to participate in the program. The Corps is charged with making home repairs or building additions, things like new roofs, wheelchair ramps, or renovations to accommodate disabilities, spending up to $15,000 on a single home. Over the next 18 months, Habitat Lakeland will use its grant of $150,000 in cash and building materials to help veterans in need. The agency also will receive a boost in manpower to help make repairs with volunteers provided by the Home Improvement Corporation. In keeping with Habitat's rule of lending a hand, not a handout, recipients of the Home Depot grants will be asked to repay a portion of the repair costs based on a sliding scale. Kirsten Downs, who appeared on a Today's Veteran studio interview 2 months ago, was named Student Veteran of the Year by the Student Veterans of America organization at its annual conference in Scottsdale, Arizona in January. Kirsten is an Air Force veteran and anthropology doctoral student who spent her summer biking across America and was recognized because of her summer activities. Kirsten is the former president of the USF Student Veterans Association, and her cross-country trip raised $50,000 for the organization, as well as awareness of student veterans' challenges and successes in higher education. Our congratulations to Kirsten for this achievement. Veterans, their families, and survivors receiving disability compensation and pension benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs received a 1.5% cost of living increase in monthly payments for 2014. The cost of living increase also applies to disability and death pension recipients, survivors receiving dependency and indemnity compensation, disabled veterans receiving automobile and clothing allowances, and other benefits. Under the federal law, cost of living adjustments for VA compensations and pensions must match those for Social Security benefits. The last adjustment was in January 2013, when the Social Security benefits rate increased 1.7%. Last year, the VA provided over $64 billion in compensation and pension benefits to veterans and their survivors. Also, for the first time, payments will not be rounded down to the nearest dollar. Until this year, that was required by law. Veterans and survivors will see additional cents included in their monthly compensation benefit payments. Over 16 million Americans served in World War II. Many of those Americans died fighting for our freedom between 1939 and 1945. Thankfully, there were millions of heroes who returned home, but their stories are beginning to fade. In an effort to properly honor those who served in World War II, Honor Flight of West Central Florida offers flights to World War II veterans to Washington, D.C., so these living legends can experience firsthand the memorials and monuments dedicated in their honor. Honor Flight Mission Number 15 originated out of Lakeland in November of last year. Here are some sights and sounds from the trip.
Welcome to Baltimore. Thank you for your service.
First, when we came up the jetway into the airport, when we landed in Baltimore, we get off the plane and my vet was in a wheelchair. He is mobile, but more convenient for him to get around. And to see, 30 or 40 full-dress armies, soldiers, sailors, airmen welcoming these people to this process was really a chill bump moment. And they showed respect for the generation that preceded them, for the people that are serving today.
We arrived at BWI just before 9 o'clock in the morning, loaded onto the buses, and of course we take our 80 wheelchairs with us also, and then we head out to view the memorials. Mail call is done after we confirm the World War II veteran. And then we have a special team of ladies that call the family members, friends. We go to schools, high schools, ROTCs, and we give them a list of the last names of the veterans. And they write letters of gratitude. We put all those letters together alphabetically. And then those letters are given to the World War II veterans as a symbol of the gratitude that America has for them, because that's all they had during World War II. There were no cell phones. There was only mail call, and mail call is what kept them going, not only sending it out, but also receiving it. It was the most important part of the day.
Daniel Vega. She's coming.
She's running.
John Underhill. John Hebel. Edmund Herring. Paul Cowrie. Arthur Schreckengaust. Joseph Dreisler.
Mail call is the singular element that they have no idea that it's coming. And most of the time, it's not the World War II veteran that's reading them. They're being read to them by their guardian because they're so emotional. It is probably the greatest thing in a small way that we can do that brings back what they fought for us almost 68 years ago.
They called the mail call, and my vet got his mail, and I was watching every other vet receive their mail. And the guardians would read the letters, and you could see the emotion in their faces of little children just saying thank you and crying from the bottom of their heart and just being appreciative that little kids would even say thank you.
My vet had very, very poor eyesight. It was incumbent on me to read him some of those letters. And I will admit to you that I was bawling and squalling when I was reading those letters to those guys about, dear granddaddy, thank you for what you did. Dear dad, thank you for what you did. Dear family member.
They were particularly moved by the letters that they received from family members because they had never been thanked, and many of them had never really shared their stories. I mean, that was one thing that was so moving about this whole experience is for 50 years or longer, they have really not shared what happened to them during the war and the sacrifices that they made and the people that they had to leave on the battlefield. It was really touching, and to see that, you know, their families were so grateful really made them proud and happy, and it was really very touching to see.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to welcome you back to Lakeland. Welcome home. Local time here is approximately 8:56.
We had almost 3,000 people assemble on a tarmac waiting for 80 World War II veterans to come back. And when that plane stopped and they started to come off, and I could see their eyes again, and I held them until I had bunches of them to go down that Hall of Honor or the walkway of honor. Their eyes were still glistening, and they were still ready. And they still didn't know that it wasn't over. They didn't know that they were going to meet two-star generals, get a challenge coin, get a book, and then lastly, they get to be with the bomber girls
most of them in their whole life had never experienced anything like this. When they were about to step off a plane and have these thousands, literally, of people who were delighted and excited to see them, and they were going to welcome them as heroes, which they truly are. You couldn't keep from, having tears in your eyes. It was just an amazing experience. And I looked over at my veteran, I had put my arm around him, and he had little tears in his eyes. And I tell you, it was just the kind of thing that, as you said, and others have said, it's the kind of thing you'll carry with you for the rest of your life.
With the crowd that gave us a welcome on the way back, and to see little children, 4, 5, 6 years old, sticking out their arm and wanting to shake hands, it kind of got to me.
I tell you, when I went into the terminal there, I really kind of had blurry eyes. I couldn't believe it. It was something out of this world. When we came home in World War II, we didn't have anything. I mean, nobody. My dad greeted me. But anyway, that was something when I got off there and walked in, and everybody was holding up flags and saying welcome home and all this and that. It just got to me.
Welcome back. Thank you for your service. Welcome back. You're welcome. Thank you. Welcome home. Thanks for your service.
Hi, I'm Tim Kirkhart, and I currently work at the Office of Veteran Services at Polk County. I, of course, was in the military, and I'll tell you a little bit about my journey to get to the military. I was involved in the 1968 draft lottery. I was just about to get out of high school, so it was one of those great days where all the 18-year-olds watched their birthdays come up, and that would decide whether you would be inducted into the military or not. And my number was about in the middle, but they called that number. I actually wanted to go to college. I enrolled in college in Miami, moved to Polk County, and I was hanging out waiting for the draft for 6 months. In 1970, I enrolled at Polk Junior College. I got involved in the ROTC program there through Florida Southern College. I went to college for 3.5 years and graduated in 1973 with a commission in the U.S. Army. I went to Fort Harrison, Indiana for training. I got there in the heat of the summer, and I left there when it was starting to spit snow. So then I went to Fort Hood, Texas, headquarters 3 Corps, and Fort Hood. I was assigned to the 15th 15th AG Company in the 1st Cav Division, Black Horse. When I went in 1973, it was the middle or the beginning of the energy crisis. So when I got to post, they were looking for a fuel officer. So when I went to Fort to report into 1st Cav Division, my XO said, "You're going to 3 Corps on special duty for 90 days. What do you know about jet fuel?" And so I said, "I don't know anything about jet fuel." And he says, "Well, good, you're going." So I went to 3 Corps, and I was made the administrative officer and the adjutant for the Directorate of Industrial Operations. The DIO is the group that stays on post if the whole Corps is activated to fight a war or whatever. So during that 4 years I was at Fort Hood, I used my GI Bill benefits and I went to school at American Technological University, and I received my master's degree, which was great. After 4 years, I decided that I would get out and pursue other things. I'm like probably all other veterans and say I should have stayed in, but I didn't. So that's a long time ago. The Army helped me a lot. Number one, it helped pay for my school. It helped me mature as a young man coming from Auburndale, Florida. And it helped me meet a lot of people and learn a lot of things. After that, I worked for the state of Florida for 30 years. I helped veterans find jobs. And after I retired from that, I started to work for the county. The military, I would recommend to anyone, even in times of war. Thank you.
My name is Kirsten Downs. I served in the U.S. Air Force and New York Air National Guard for a total of 7 years. I think when I look back, one of the stories that makes me laugh is thinking about when I was assigned the job that I was going to have while in the Air Force. See, when you are talking to a recruiter before you sign those papers, they're like, "Yeah, you're going to get the job you want. It's going to be great." And then sometimes you get in, and after you go through basic training and you get your job assignment, you might be surprised at what you get. So the job that I got, it was called the 2W1. I was an armament systems specialist, which means I was going to be loading bombs on a B-1 Lancer. This was really surprising to me. It was a maintenance job, but when all was said and done, it was a really cool job, and I met some of the most amazing people through the 4 years that I was in active duty. And I got to deploy to a couple of different forward locations loading bombs, and I became very, very good at it. And I got to troubleshoot the maintenance of systems on these really incredible large aircraft. So when people ask me the job that I did in the Air Force, I'm like, I used to load bombs, and it was so much fun. And I missed it a lot.
In this month in history, the first 2 of 3 dispatched U.S. Marine divisions began hitting the beach for the epic Battle of Iwo Jima in February 1945. Most of the 22,000 Japanese diehards defending Iwo Jima were killed. Almost 7,000 Marines lost their lives in this battle, double those lost in the Twin Towers in 9/11. February 1962 was the year when U.S. Marine Lieutenant Colonel and warfighter pilot John Glenn Jr. became the first American to orbit the Earth. Glenn orbited 3 times in less than 5 hours in his spacecraft, the Friendship 7. Coalition forces launched a ground invasion of Kuwait and Iraq in February 1991, aimed at ousting Saddam Hussein's army from Kuwait. By the end, the Iraqi army had effectively folded and Kuwait was liberated. That's all we have for this edition of Today's Veteran. Next month, we will update you on news and information that pertains directly to our veteran community right here in Polk County. Remember, for help and information regarding claims, benefits, and services available to veterans and their families, call the Veteran Service Office or log on to the Polk County website.